Let's take down data versus information. Right, let's first look at what a data is. Right, now I told you, okay, let me give you an example. Amandara, can you tell me what this is?
Data, sir. I mean, sorry, numbers.
Some number, right?
Yes.
If I put something like what's the second one?
Phone number.
Okay, so how did you guess it?
From 077.
Yeah,
That part.
you know there's a pattern and number of digits is 10. Okay, good. So how about yeah? Can you guess what the second one is?
Telephone numbers.
Okay, belong to which district?
Candy.
Okay, so how did you know?
From 081.
Okay, exactly. So you can see if you take some random set of number, there's no meaning. But when you have 10 digits and if it is start with 077, we know that this is coming from which operator? If you have not 777,
Mobitel, sir.
now this is dialogue. 777 usually we have dialogue, so we know that this is a dialogue number. Similarly, this is also we can guess this is a telephone number. We have 10 digits and it belongs to Kandy district. So whenever you get some random numbers, there's no meaning for that. But whenever you have arranged in a way that it will be meaningful. So data, if you take as it is, there's no meaning. It could be numbers, it could be letters, words, even the photographs. You can take it as a data. Right? Okay. So let's take.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
The second and third one are information.
I mean, although it's a data, but this contain useful information. We know that this is a telephone number. We know that this is a dialogue. So whenever you have these two numbers, if you have a dialogue telephone, which number you are going to use?
The second one.
If you have a dialogue telephone, right? And if you have these two numbers, which number you are going to use? Like, let's say this is the same person having two numbers.
First one.
First one, why?
Because it's the type of dialogue.
Not really. Cost is low, right? If you're making a call to a fixed phone line, and if you're making a call to dialogue, the call is low cost if you make it into dialogue phone. Yes, so you will get an advantage. So it's meaningful, right? So you see that you can make decisions, right? If it is an information. So I hope you got the idea. So basically we can say whenever things are unprocessed, right, not unarranged, right, we can refer them as data. So let's take down unprocessed items such as numbers, letters, words, symbols, photographs, can be referred to as data. Which might not be meaningful. So anyway, I mean, I forgot to put this is on about data, right? So we put the, yeah, so unprocessed items. So this is about data, right? Right. Now, when we talk about data, data could be quantitative and qualitative. Amadara, do you have an idea about what quantitative means?
Quantitative means I can count.
Yes, you can count. Qualitative,
I mean, I cannot count.
yeah. So it's about a particular quality, right? So normally we can say that, okay, so in quantitative data, you can measure, you can represent using numerically. But the quality, then you cannot measure. So this is again, we have to make use of it. Now, for example, when you have height, when you have age, is it quantitative or is it qualitative?
Sorry, sir, it's not clear.
Now, if we say height of a person,
Okay, it's quantitative.
it's quantitative, you can measure it.
Yes.
When you say a person is fair,
Qualitative.
it's qualitative, right? You cannot exactly measure. So the data basically can be classified as two. So we can write down.
So before, can you give some examples, like 2 or 3 examples for data?
Okay. Yeah. How should I put it? We can say, no, examples are like if you take numbers as it is. So here are the examples. Numbers as it is, no meaning. Letters as it is, no meaning. Words as it is, no meaning.
Words means like anything like Apple computer or anything, those are data set. Like,
Yeah. Now even like, no, I will give you some very meaningful one. Like if you take marks of a subject, it will be data, right? Why is that? I think I mentioned this last time as well. Let me give you an example. Marks of a subject. It will be data.
so how can it be like meaningless? Because if a person needs to know about a mark of that particular subject, it may be information.
But can you make a decision I told you, like when you say meaningful, it should always, you can do some meaningful things. Now let's say your marks is 60. What can you tell about that mark?
Okay, sir.
You got the point. But if I say
Yes.
average marks, then
Yeah,
you
it's
can count
information.
that, right? And if the marks is greater than the average, then we know that he's better, performing better. Similarly, rainfall, right? If I take raised rainfall or temperature, if I say the temperature is 35 degrees Celsius, what can you tell about that?
We don't know about the average
Yeah,
temperature, so we can't give a
you can't you can't really make any comment on that, right? So I put this as some examples, but you will get to know these things. I put, since you have asked, I put, that's good you ask.
So if
Right.
we can like compare to this is the temperature, then it's information.
Now, when you say temperature, then average temperature, right?
Okay, sir.
Then monthly rainfall, which is more useful than just you say rainfall. Sometimes say that, okay, today the rainfall is about 20 millimeters. They normally say like that, but doesn't contain any information. But if they say the last month average rainfall is 10%, 10 millimeter, okay, then we know that we had a heavy rain compared to that.
Yes, sir. Got
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Right. The next thing, let's have the quantitative and qualitative thing, right? We can say data can be divided as quantitative and qualitative data. We can usually, data can be divided as quantitative and qualitative data.
Done, sir.
We can say, first of all, quantitative means data can be represented numerically. You can use a number and use for computation. Example, No, we just say weight of a person. We can measure. That is quantitative. Qualitative. Data cannot be measured and different properties can be identified. Maybe this is not a good example, but fairness of a person. Or maybe skin color, right? So difficult to measure, but some properties. Even the shape of something or person's health, for example. How do you express? We can say health, good, bad,
Answer.
So let's write down the information. I hope now you got an idea about data. So let's start with the information data. When you say information, so we have to process data. When you process data, you will get information. Now I told you, like when you get what you call temperature and average temperature per month will be information. Right? Data is processed in such a way that it will be meaningful. Information can be used to make decisions. information can be used to make decisions. Let's have some examples for this. You can say marks YCT subject. If you just say get marks as it is, you can consider, or you can say can be considered as data, and average marks YCT will be information. Amount of rainfall per day is data, whereas maximum rainfall per month is information. Right. Okay. So that's about so let's look at how the process of converting data into information. Now, what we said, we have to process data. When you say process data, it could be many things, right? So for example, when we say average marks, you have to add all the marks in the class and divide by the number of students in the class, you will get average marks. Similarly, the second one, when you say rainfall, find the maximum rainfall, you have to, arrange it in a descending order. And then you can find the maximum rainfall. So you see that you have to do some processing, right? So what we need to do is we can actually let's write down conversion of data into information. So let's look at conversion of data into information. So first of all, we start with data. Then we have to process it. Finally, we'll get the information. So usually the data means the input to the system. Right? So we can simply draw something simple diagram like this. So we'll have input, it'll process it, we'll get output, that is information. So if you insert data, once you process it, we can get output. This can be defined as data processing. So we know that when we are converting data into information, we have to process it. Processing means you perform some arithmetic calculations, or maybe you arrange, it depends on what exactly you want to do. So in this example, when you say marks for ICT, we can consider it as a data. When you say average marks, we can consider it as information. So what is the input? Yes. What is the input?
Marks or ICT in a class.
Yes, we can. Marks for ICT in a class or in the class. Then output, average marks. Okay, given marks, how do you get the average marks? Tell me the process.
Dividing all the marks from the number of students.
Yes, find the total marks and then find the total marks, and then what do you have to do? You have to divide by number of students in the class, isn't it? Yeah, you need to find the total marks by adding all the marks together, And then you need to divide the number by the number of students. So that's how you can get the information. Right. Now we know, right? We have to process data to get information. So let's look at qualitative information. What we should have when you say the data in good quality. Yes. Any ideas? How do you say that? The information in good quality. What are the characteristics of quality information? අපි කියන ගුණාත්මක තොරතුරක් වෙන්න නම් ඒකේ quality එක වැඩි කියන්න නම් මොන වගේ properties ද අපිට තියෙන්න ඕනි කියන එකයි අහන්නේ.
It want to be understandable.
Sorry, I couldn't understand. Yes?
It want to be understandable, sir.
Yes, it should be understandable. Yes.
Accurate.
Should be accurate. Now, for example, when you perform a medical test for a patient, should be accurate, right? Otherwise, what will happen? Doctor may, right, make a wrong decision, isn't it? So data should be accurate. What else? Accuracy, okay. Understandability, that is also okay. What else? Now, for example, tomorrow's weather, when it is useful. අපි කිව්වොත් හෙටත් තියෙන weather එක කවදද අපිට වැදගත් වෙන්නේ? weather එක කවදද අපිට වැදගත් වෙන්නේ? අදනේ නේද? ඇත්තටම සති දෙක තුනකට කලින් අපිට දැනගන්න පුළුවන් ඒත් හොඳයි. Right? Tomorrow's weather is more useful today, not tomorrow, right? Earlier the better. You can make the decision. So this is called timeliness. Information should be available at the correct time. You should not delay, right? And sometimes we say information should be relevant. Now, relevant mean, right, things like, when if I ask you what is your highest educational qualification, how do you answer?
O levels, sir?
You can say O levels. Do you have to say that you have passed grade 9?
No, sir.
No, you don't have to. And after some, when you're done with A level, you can say, okay, I am finished A levels. When you have a degree, you can say, okay, I hold the degree. Right? When you get masters, you can say, okay, I hold a master. You don't have to say that, other information. So whatever the relevant information we have to have, right? Should be short, should be relevant, should be to the point. And information should be complete. Now, it's something like this. Now, let's say I want to find out average marks of a class. If all the students are not present, can I find the correct average marks?
No, sir.
No, right? Let's say we have 30 students in the class. Let's say today we have about 20. If we collect only 20 and divide by 20, do you think we are getting, right, a valuable information? No, you don't. So remember, information should be complete. Right. I think we'll list down those. Right. Let's write down characteristics of valuable information. Or quality of information quality also you can say. Characteristics of valuable information. Or information quality, you may say. And say quality information, maybe within bracket, you can say, okay, quality information. Yes. So what are the characteristics? Okay. So let's write down. Yes. First of all, relevance. Information should be relevant. we can say information should be relevant. Example, highest educational qualification. So stating highest one is enough. Second, timeliness. Information should be updated and available in a timely manner. Example, tomorrow's weather. Now we discussed two things, relevance and then timeliness. Next one, accuracy. Information should be accurate. Example, test results of a patient. Then completeness. All information must be considered when making conclusions. Example, to find average marks, to find average marks, all the students should be considered. Then understandability. Understandability. Information should be clear and point size. Any questions? උතරට මොන හරි නොතේරෙන යමක් හෝ මොන හරි තව ටිකක් වැඩිපුර දැනගන්න මොන හරි තියෙනවද පුතේ?
සර් ඔච්චරයිනේ තියෙන්නේ characteristics වලට.
මොකද?
ඔච්චරයිනේ තියෙන characteristics වලට.
Let me check. Now there could be many, but let me check at least in the syllabus. We have to have relevance that we have discussed, timeliness, accuracy, completeness, understandability. Yeah. So according to syllabus, these are the things that we should discuss.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. The next one thing you need to remember, right? Now let's say whatever you input to the system, if it is not correct, that means if the data is garbaged or data is garbed, what will happen to the information? Yes. We normally say garbage in, garbage out. If the data is not correct, information is also
Not correct, sir.
not correct. So remember that. Now you are asking marks from the student. If they tell you wrong information, then whatever the decisions that you are going to make is also wrong. So remember that. So that's why. So when you want to input something, you have to be very careful. Should be correct. Right? So we can say when data is not accurate, right? When the data is not accurate, we can say information is also inaccurate or incorrect. Right. Okay. So with this, I hope now you should have a good understanding about data and information. So time to time, you might get some, MCQs. Right. And I hope that part is not that difficult. Right. Let's move to the next one. Now, what do you think about a particular information when times goes by? For example, tomorrow's weather. The times goes by, the importance of tomorrow's weather. What do you think?
It will reduce.
It will reduce, right? So this is known as golden rule of information, right? So we can say the golden rule of information, meaning so that information importance degrades over the time, right? So you can draw two axes like this. You can put time here and value of information. So whenever the information available, it's very high. But when the time passes, the importance of information gradually degrades, right? Gradually degrades. So we can write down when information is created, it has the highest value. So you have the highest value. This is referred to as golden rule of information. The value, we can say, gradually decreases over time. So tomorrow's weather, for example, important for today. We have the highest value today.
As a, will it be finished or will it be there forever? I mean, the information.
Not really finishing. We say that the information will be very minimal when the times goes by. You cannot say that information will be zero. There should be some importance, but not great as when it is created. So that's what it says golden rule. Whenever you have the information that is more useful.
Okay.
So normally we will say it's less valuable over the time. We don't normally say that it's zero or no value at all. We normally say it's less valuable. Right. Now, what do you think about the data? Today, now all our day-to-day things will be recorded. Yes. How much information do you think people generate?
Can't count, sir.
Now, for example, now let's think about what we used day to day. For example, people might use YouTube, Facebook, it'll bunch of data, isn't it? Right? And Instagram, Pinterest. So it'll collect a lot of data, right? So if you take 1 minute time, I'm actually copying from the internet, just to give you an idea. And this is not very recent. Okay, it's not very clear. My bad. Let me write. I hope now it should be right. Okay, so this is much better. Right, I actually copied this from the internet because everything is recorded, right? So for example, within 60 seconds, this is what happened. The people use 33.8 million search queries. People are searching 3.8 million searches per 60 seconds. Right? If you take WhatsApp, for example, 18.1 million texts, a lot of data. Facebook, 1 million logging. YouTube, 4.5 million videos viewed within 60 seconds. Now think about how much data that people collect, right? Keep. So which means traditional technology won't work, right? Traditional technology won't work. So which means we need, so since this data is very high, we use the term big data. So now we call this as big data. So what do you mean by big data then? Yes, especially once you have the social media. Okay, but before that, let me have a question. Like what social media you are using, Amadara?
WhatsApp, sir.
You're using WhatsApp.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you use it to communicate with your friends, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and maybe you are sending pictures and videos.
Sometimes.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Because like these tools are now, it's a part of our life, right? Day-to-day life. If you say no, I mean, you are going to, not telling the truth. Without social media, now it's like everybody can't live with it, at least, those who have access to, right? No, so the general software cannot handle this much of data. Scaling is very high. So it means we need more complex, right, software to handle this. So because of that, this complex data, right? Why we call complex data? Now, for example, if you WhatsApp can be used to make calls, can be used for messages, can be used to share pictures. It's very complex, right? So this is like the large complex data we referred as big data, right? So the collecting the data, storing it, analyzing them, sharing, updating, and even privacy concerns. Very difficult when it comes to huge amount of data, big data. Why we say collection is difficult? Now think about the YouTube videos. Can you store all the YouTube videos in your machine?
No, sir.
Oh, I mean, we know that they are huge, right? You cannot put. Most often, if you try to do that, your computer runs out of the space. So it's not going to work, right? Collection is difficult, storing difficult, even sharing difficult. How can you share a big video file with your friends? Let's say you have a movie to share with your friends. How do you do that?
Getting that video and just clicking the share button and getting to WhatsApp and just sending it to the friends.
Yes, but if it is huge, what will happen?
Can't send it to the friends, sir.
Yeah, sometimes it says you can't send it. Sometimes you don't have enough data bandwidth.
So what will we do if we can't send a video?
Simply you can't. You have to use different technology. Now, for example, emails, you cannot send more than 25 megabytes of data. Simply emails cannot handle. So we have to use different technology. So that's what I said. If you want to handle big data, so you have to use special software, special tools to handle big data. Right. So what I want to discuss here is what a big data is. Now, all the data that we will actually generate through the social media and all can be considered them as big data. Right. So let's write down. There are a lot of data, right? There's a lot of data being collected today, isn't it? We can say social networks. Right? So we can say these cannot be set up using standard software. Such large complex data is called, yeah, big data. We call big data. So the collection, storing, analyzing, exchange. So we can say we have a lot of data collected today using our mobile, all the electronic gadgets collect data. And simple software cannot handle this. So this complex data is called big data. And there are issues when you want to collect data, when you want to store data, when you want to analyze data, when you want to share data, when you want to update it, and even protecting privacy of data. Now, for example, Google knows that you are at home, isn't it? Amadara, what do you think? Can Google company knows where you are right now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Google knows. Even Google knows what you prefer, your preferred places, for example. If you're carrying your phone with you, if you have internet access, GPS locations there, then even Google can tell you like where you have visited frequently last month, where you have been.
Can they, sir?
Yes, they can track you. That's why I said protecting the privacy of data is difficult. Google knows everything. Google means America knows everything about you. They can track you. Now, your messages, for example, they say they are encrypted, yes, but it's still, right? Very sensitive information. You type it, right?
Yes, sir.
So Google knows what kind of a person you are, what you like, what you dislike. So Google can make suggestions. They can suggest videos for you, right? YouTube, for example. Now, when you, depending on what you watch so far, they are recommending, right? If
Yes, sir.
you keep on watching, let's say, action movies, then YouTube will tend to give you more action movies for you. Try to suggest you action movies.
Sir, so it's dangerous now if they can like hack our messages and all this stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying protecting the privacy of data is difficult, meaning that. So there's no privacy. You are inside the house, but a company in US knows about you.
Yes, sir.
That's why in countries like China, they have banned Google.
Yes, sir.
So you can read about a lot about this, but this is just for your information. Since you are learning ICT, you should know that everything is recorded. The calls you make, it's recorded by the telecommunication company. They can hear if they want what your calls, that they can tap you, right?
Yes, sir.
They can hear you, what you're telling. And sometimes what they do is they automatically convert your voice into text, and then they will analyze. I use the term analyze here, whether it's related to some, let's say like drug deals or, and they can track you down. So in countries like Sweden, for example, they were recording all the calls made in public.
So, but they will listen to our things if they need only, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen mean normally the technology is developed so that if you are towards something not acceptable by the society, then they may track you. Not everyone, it's not possible, right? That's what we are saying. When we have a lot of data, it's very difficult to analyze. So the same thing we will say, analyzing means what you talk about, although there are technology, it's very difficult. That's what we say here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so that's about big data.
Sir, what is the information from that? I mean, from big data.
Now, the big data is where, for example, in YouTube, what you have is big data. Why we say big data? It's massive amount of videos are there. But they use technologies to identify your interest, and they can suggest you videos. And then by just watching videos, they can make revenues, because they can put advertisement. Now you see, now in YouTube, in the middle of video, there will be some ads, advertisement. So basically they use our data or our interest to make money.
I mean, sir, what is the information that can we get from big data? Like, for example,
Yeah, that's what people are interested in, right? What will be the, for example, even we can know who will be the next president. Now, people criticizing the government in Facebook, right?
yes, yes.
If I'm in a political party, maybe I can figure out where these discussions are heading, in what party. After analyzing, you can get to know. Even before the election happens, we can predict who will be the next president. This has done in America as well, just by going through the social media profiles.
Yes, sir.
So that information is useful to make, I don't know, they can take different decisions, but people can make decisions based on that.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So that's about the big data. Let's move on to the next subtopic. Now, so far we were discussing data and information. With that one, we finished that discussion. The next thing that we need to discuss is how we can, create data and information, how we can distribute, how can you manage for the technology, right? So that's exactly what we are going to discuss, right? So let's write down the next topic. So the next topic is, this is actually, we have not put the numbers earlier. We are in the lesson 1. We were discussing 1.1 earlier, that is data and information, right? So that is 1.1. 1.2, that is the next subtopic, right? Need of technology to create, disseminate, and manage data and information. Yes, we looked at what technologies could be used to generate data. Right. Now, first we look at how information is used in day-to-day life, right? How information is used in day-to-day life. Right now, first one, what we are going to look at is how useful information in everyday life, right? So that's what we are going to look at it. Use of information in everyday life. Yes. Under that, one we discussed already, right? Decision making, right? We can make decisions using information. We can say information is useful for making decisions in everyday life. Now, if tomorrow is a rainy day, we can make decision according to that. If you are going for a class, maybe you can bring an umbrella. If you are a farmer, maybe you can plan for applying fertilizer like this. You can make decisions based on, the information. Okay. Second one we call policy making. I will explain what this is. Now, for example, why the government has stopped importing vehicles? Yes, Samantha?
Because people can't buy the vehicles and the government can't spend that much of money for the vehicles.
Yeah, import expenses are really high. And
Yes.
for that, we have to spend dollars. We have a limited amount of dollars at hand. So that's the reason why they have stopped it. So for that, you need some information, right? So for that, when they want to prepare the economic policies, they have considered the information related to economy, isn't it? So that's why they have limited the imports, right? So this information is very useful to making decisions. So the policy making means we will use this in, for example, in country's economy to make the decision, right? So we can say, for example, this can be used when formulating different policies. So not importing vehicle is a policy decision, isn't it? The government made that policy decision. අපි ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් විදිහට තීරණය කරනවා වාහන ගෙන්නන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. So economic information is important in shaping a country's economic policy. Import cost limit the imports of certain goods as the country cannot afford it. So right now we cannot afford importing vehicles. Any questions on this? Is it okay now? So basically we say
Yes, sir.
information is used in everyday life for decision making and even policy making. Then third one, prediction. You can predict using information what might happen in future. the prediction. So information is important for deciding what might happen in future. We can decide what might happen in future.
So if they are not importing the cars, how can the people have cars? I mean, will Sri Lanka make cars or something?
Right now, they have done this temporary, right? I don't think they can ban forever. But temporary, they have suspended importing because to import cars, you have to pay using dollars. Right now, you know that we don't have a dollars even to pay for oil, pay for fuel. So that is the reason why they have stopped importing vehicles.
It will continue for another 2-3 years now, sir.
They might continue for 2-3 years, because when they have lift this, what might happen? People, import vehicles, then the rupee to dollar to rupee change will be getting higher. Right now it's about like 200 rupees, might be 300, 400, because
Yes.
everything will go. So there's no control right now. So right now what they do, that they limit importing some goods, in this particular case vehicles. Not only vehicles, actually there are some other goods as well.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. And last one, we said prediction, right? What might happen? Okay, so let me give an example for this prediction. Now this is based on what has happened during COVID, right? So let's see. Now this is actually beginning of the year, not very recently, right? So this is about the COVID cases in Sri Lanka in March 20 to March 21. So the green line corresponds to the total cases reported in Sri Lanka, and the black line indicate the active cases. By looking at this is information, isn't it? Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What can you tell about by looking at this?
The active cases are lesser. I'm sorry, not lesser. Um,
Yeah.
it's
Anyway,
higher.
like total cases means like cumulative, and the active cases means how many active patients right now.
What is the answer for it, sir, actually?
No, I mean, not in answer, I'm just asking. So this indicates that there's a high tendency to increase the COVID patients in coming weeks, isn't it? If you look at right now, we can see what has happened. Now, this is, what might happen. So by looking at the graph, we might make a decision saying that, okay, patients might be growing. So as a country, maybe we have to start a lockdown, isn't it? If these keep on growing, what will happen? We cannot, control the situation.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's say health authorities and those who are going to make decision, if they look at this diagram, by looking at this diagram, they can figure out that this is not a good sign. Things are getting worse. So they have to impose some restrictions, isn't it? So this is a
Yes.
simple example for predictions. Like what this indicates is the COVID patients. We have COVID, patients, and orange indicates the total number of patients, and the black indicates the number of patients currently being treated. Right. According to this, let's say figure, yes, patients are expected to grow significantly, and in the next few weeks, and travel restrictions should be tightened. Yes. So this kind of application will be there if we are to use the predictions. Yes, can you roughly draw this? You don't have to draw in detail, but just to give you some idea of what we need to do.
So do I need to, write this part?
You can please do. I mean, this is for your information, no? So take down.
Okay.
So some general information also, this is good. So we'll write down. The last one that I would like to discuss is planning, scheduling, and monitoring. We need to plan, isn't it? We have target. Then you have a schedule. You have a time frame. Somebody has to go through this monitoring process. The next one is planning, scheduling, and monitoring. The last point is planning, scheduling, and monitoring. You have to plan, you have to have a schedule, and you have to monitor it. So what is the plan? According to our example, we need to reduce number of COVID patients. So you have to make a schedule for that. And then we have to monitor. We have to see whether we are reaching the target now. Let's say now we have COVID cases, number of COVID cases per day is 500. We can make plans to reduce it to 100 per day. So we have to make schedules and somebody has to monitor this.
So this one also use of information, right?
Yes, this is also, yeah. This is information anyway. We were discussing actually, use of information in everyday life. So we can use every life information. We can use for decision making, policy making, prediction. And finally, planning, scheduling, and monitoring.